The dawn broke over the Pacific coastline in a haze of lavender and rose, an ordinary sunrise that should have heralded another day of quiet routines. 15-year-old Rhiannon Saavedra lingered on, her rooftop, sketchbook in hand, tracing the pastel sky with charcoal strokes. Below, the city of Seattle stirred to life. Coffee shops opened. Fishermen cast their nets from piers, and school buses rumbled along Elliott Bay. It was a calm that felt eternal, as if nothing could pierce the gentle rhythm of waves lapping against concrete seawalls. Then the sky tore open. At first, it was a distant thunder, as though Olympus itself had split. Rhiannon's pen froze mid-stroke when a shockwave rattled the windows of her apartment building. She leapt to her feet, heart pounding, and stared upward. Above the rooftop garden across the street, a sliver of daylight winked out, swallowed by an impossibly black shape. It grew larger by the second, blotting out the sun. Below her, the world convulsed. Car alarms shrieked in unison. Pedestrians scattered like startled birds. A deep, resonant hum rolled through the asphalt, vibrating through Rhiannon's bones. Through binoculars she borrowed from her father's emergency kit, she glimpsed it, a gargantuan warship, its hull segmented into overlapping plates of gunmetal sheen. Bristling with rays of glowing crystals and rod-like spires, it floated without sound, suspended on unseen currents. Sirens wailed throughout the city as jet fighters streaked toward the intruder. Rhiannon watched in horrified fascination as the jets climbed, only to be incinerated, one after another, by emerald beams that carved through their fuselages like hot knives through butter. The bright, searing lines drew long scorched trails across the clouds. Each explosion formed a fleeting golden blossom before collapsing into a smoldering ember. She dropped her sketchbook. It fell to the rooftop below, pages spilling out and fluttering in the sudden gale. A shockwave rattled the building again, this time splitting a chunk of concrete from the parapet. She stumbled backward, nearly losing her balance on the wrought iron railing. 15 floors beneath her, the city's electrical grid failed in a cascade of sparks. Streetlights guttered out. Neon signs blinked off mid-word. In the darkness that followed, the alien ship's underbelly glowed 1,000 pale lights pulsing in ominous sequence. Rhiannon's breath caught in her throat. The vessel's surface opened like a blossoming nightmare. Clusters of crystalline crystals unfolded, emitting a low-frequency pulse that rippled through the air. Moments later, the towers appeared. Within minutes, identical behemoths, titanic spines of shimmering violet erected themselves atop every major building, from the Transamerica Pyramid in San Francisco to the CN Tower in Toronto. Each one sank deep pylons into the earth, drawing red tendrils of energy that snaked into the planet's crust. As the towers activated, their pulsations stuttered, then harmonized into a droning bass that shook windows and rattled bone. The power grid collapsed. Nationwide, every city descended into blackout. A disembodied voice resonated through every emergency broadcast system, clear yet devoid of inflection. Surrender across the world's capitals. Stunned leaders conferred in panic. President Albright of the United States refused, citing the nuclear triad. Chancellor Muller rallied Europe's combined fleets. Russia's commanders prepared their silos. Japan's self-defense forces primed their Aegis destroyers. But within hours, all those arsenals lay inert. The towers emitted a sweeping electromagnetic burst so potent that guidance systems fried. Missiles detonated on their silos, and submarines lost navigation. Rhiannon, pinned by fear and awe, watched the final jets that dared to retaliate spiral out of control before plunging into the Sound. Rain began to fall, acidic, glowing green. The downpour dissolved asphalt into rivers of luminescent sludge. Flames erupted at the bases of streetlights as the towers siphoned power. Somewhere, a church bell tolled, then cracked off its chain and crashed to the pews below. In that moment when the last echoes of resistance faded, Rhiannon understood that Earth was no longer a fortress. It was prey. Inside her family's apartment, the lights went out. Rhiannon's mother, Elena, fumbled for candles. Her father, Professor Marcos Saavedra, a seismologist who had spent decades studying the planet's tectonic stresses, stood by the window, phone to his ear. He spoke in urgent whispers. They're drawing energy from Earth's core, he muttered. The seismic readings are off the charts. If they keep this up, he didn't finish. Outside, the ground trembled as if the planet itself had groaned beneath that unearthly drain. Rhiannon gripped her father's arm. What's happening? She asked, voice trembling. He swallowed. I don't know, but it's not over. They huddled in the living room, candles flickering. Through the window, they watched fires bloom across distant hills, holocausts of glass and steel. Helicopters buzzed far above, too few to matter. On the balcony, a pair of pigeons roosted, their feathers singed and smoking. Rhiannon tried to comfort them, cooing softly. Even the birds seemed to understand the apocalypse that had come. When the pulse finally ceased, the world was silent, an uneasy lull. The towers stood sentinel, their crystals dim and lifeless in the smoldering dusk. Sirens wailed somewhere in the distance. The first refugees, dust-covered and shell-shocked, began to trickle through the streets. Eyes vacant, Rhiannon's family joined the exodus. In the crumbling subway station, they sheltered in. Survivors whispered rumors of catacombs beneath the piers, of drilling rigs in the Gobi Desert, of alien probes burrowing toward a world-ending secret. None of it made sense, but all of it breathed the same dread. That night, Rhiannon dreamt of black wings. She flew above the towers, their pulses lighting the sky in jagged arcs. She heard a voice call her name, echoing in every language she knew and in languages she had never learned. She awoke to her mother's tears and her father's worn face illuminated by a single candle. We have to fight, he said. Rhiannon nodded, though her heart combated every instinct to flee. She picked up her sketchbook and, with trembling hands, drew the image she could not unsee, a world held captive by colossal machines, and a single human spirit daring to defy them. The world had fractured into 1,000 broken pieces, each shard etched with fear. Civilization's great arteries, highways, railways, fiber optic lines were severed. City walls, once gleaming symbols of human ingenuity, now lay in ruin. Beneath the alien towers, and beneath that silent canopy of steel, humanity's survivors wandered in ragged bands, each group eking out existence on scavenged water. Canned rations and hope. Rhiannon Saavedra moved through the darkness with measured steps, her breath visible in the cold night air. She and her family had fled Seattle days ago, braving rail lines strewn with overturned boxcars and derailed locomotives. They navigated through tunnels where rats skittered in the shadows, disturbed only by the occasional moan of injury or despair. At station after station, they found makeshift camps, smoky fires ringed by frightened faces. It was at one such encampment, deep in the abandoned belly of King Street Station, that they met Malik Hussein. He was a veteran turned scavenger leader, his broad frame draped in a scavenged flight jacket patched with Allied and defunct corporate logos. His once dark hair was shot through with gray. A single scar ran from temple to jawline, and his eyes burned with a feral intelligence. You can't outrun the towers, Malik told Rhiannon's father, eyes sweeping the dim crowd. They've extended their pulses across continents. They'll seize every last jewel of power from this planet unless we fight back. Professor Saavedra, clutching a battered laptop and a stack of seismic charts, frowned. We still need energy to power vehicles, to coordinate resistance. Without it, we're blind. Malik nodded. Exactly why we hit their depots. They store power crystals here, and they're carted to Earth to feed the towers. We can steal their source before they waste it all. Rhiannon had never shot a gun, never thrown a grenade. But when her father looked to her wide-eyed, desperate, she understood that she had no choice. Humanity's last chance lay in seizing those alien crystals and turning the invaders' strength against them. They formed a small party. Malik, scarred and steady; Arya, a mechanic with soot-stained curls and quick fingers; Jose, a medic who carried half a dozen bandoliers of homemade stimulants; and Rhiannon, armed with her father's old binoculars and a pack heavy with water filters. They called themselves the Nighthawks, bouncing under cover of darkness, striking fast and vanishing before the tower's reactivation cycles. Their target lay in the ruins of Bellevue, across Lake Washington. Satellite images stolen from a downed military server showed a glass-encased vault buried beneath an office complex. The vault's outer walls hummed faintly, a telltale sign of the power crystals in stasis. Malik's intel suggested the vault drones were on low alert. After weeks on Earth, the invaders had grown complacent, believing their pulses unassailable. At dusk, the Nighthawks boarded a battered hovercraft patch with scavenged engines. Rhiannon's heart pounded as the craft's thrusters huffed, then lifted them silently above fog-shrouded waters. Through the windows, the cityscape of Bellevue appeared, its spires shattered and overgrown with fluorescent moss that had sprouted. Wherever alien energy seeped, the full moon hovered above, a ghostly sentinel. They landed in the shadow of the complex's parking structure for hulking towers. Remnants of a corporate headquarters surrounded them like sentinels. Each tower's crystalline apex pulsed in a slow, steady beat imperceptible to the untrained eye, but inescapable to Malik, whose cybernetic implant monitored electromagnetic fields. 3 minutes until the next pulse dampening, he whispered, pointing to a wrist-mounted display. "We've got a window." Rhiannon's fingers trembled as Arya handed her an EMP grenade. "Ready?" Arya asked. Voice low and calm, Rhiannon nodded. She nestled the grenade beneath a cluster of damp wires at the base of the nearest tower. With a hiss, she pulled the pin and rolled it into the shadows. The EMP's metallic click echoed in her ears too loud to reel. "Back," Malik barked. The group dove behind a rusted sedan. A heartbeat later, the EMP tore free, arcs of blue lightning snaking across the tower's base. The pulse cut off, its hum, and for a moment, the crystalline apex went dark. Now Malik sprang forward, vault codes flashing on his tablet. Jose and Arya moved to cover him as he hacked the biometric lock, a mechanism beyond anything human engineers had ever devised. Rhiannon crouched beside the vault door, clutching binoculars in case drones arrived. Seconds stretched into minutes. Then, with a soft click, the vault's multi-layered door slid open, revealing rows of crystalline cubes glowing with stolen Earth energy, pulsing reds, oranges, and violets like a surreal candy display. "Load 'em up," Malik ordered. Bulging duffels and backpacks unfurled. Each Nighthawk Rhiannon included grabbed a crystal, its surface warm to the touch, humming with latent power. The cool weight in her pack felt like hope distilled into glass, but the moment she turned, the air filled with a high-pitched whine. Approaching drones. Beneath the moonlight, sleek metallic spheres knifed through the air, their optic lenses glowing softly. "They're coming," Jose shouted, slamming his field kit shut. He jabbed a needle into his arm and charged a serum that would heighten his reflexes. But only for a minute. "Fall back, Point Charlie," Malik yelled. They sprinted back through shattered hallways and metal carcasses, the crystals humming, echoing in Rhiannon's ears. Behind them, the vault door clanged shut. Drones swooped low, energy pulses scorching concrete where they had stood. Arya hurled a homemade charge that exploded with a deafening roar, disrupting the drones, sending them crashing into the ruins. But more kept coming, faster than the Nighthawks could dodge. They burst out into the open. Malik signaled the hovercrafts. Remote ignition. As the engines roared to life, the group raced across the parking lot. A drone's beam sliced the hood off their craft. Metal crumpled in a shower of sparks. Rhiannon staggered but kept running, clutching her crystal. Just as the nearest drone locked its targeting beam on her, Arya fired an EMP pistol. The blast rippled outward, shutting down the drone's motors, and it spiraled to the ground in black. Silence. The others tumbled aboard the hovercraft. Malik slammed the hatch. "Hang on," he shouted, and the craft lurched upward in a cloud of dust, an ozone dot below them. Bellevue burned. The vault's hidden vault glimmered like a wound in the earth, and Zeus-crazed drones clambered over the burning ruins, searching for the escaped thieves. Back at the Nighthawks' hideout, a subterranean bunker beneath an abandoned sports arena, Rhiannon laid the crystals out on a concrete table. Each cube rested in a lead-lined box, pulsating faintly, eager to release its energy. Professor Saavedra joined them, eyes wide with awe as he examined the crystals. "You did it," he whispered, gently lifting a cube. "These could power a small city for weeks." Malik shook his head. "Not power weaponize. We can reverse the polarity and overload the towers, collapse their conduits. But it's risky. Too much backlash, and we fry ourselves." Rhiannon felt a surge of pride and dread. They had won a battle, but the war loomed larger than ever. Every crystal they stole would draw more invader attention. The pulse towers would adapt. They always did. Yet as she stared at the glowing cubes, she knew one thing: humanity still had fight in it. And under the long night of alien oppression, that spark would blaze or die trying. The long night had only just begun. The night sky above what remained of Tokyo was lit by pinpricks of cold blue light. 17 alien vessels drifting in low Earth orbit. From the ground, they looked like wounded moths fluttering against the black expanse. For the first time since the invasion, the world held its breath. Ascendancy weeks after the Nighthawk's daring heist, humanity's scientists harnessed the stolen power crystals to fuel a hastily constructed orbital repulsion array. Using reverse polarity fields, they battered the alien ships, forcing 19 of them to limp away from Earth's gravity well. At the command center buried beneath the Giza Plateau, Rhiannon watched the live feeds, pulse-rifled tendrils of energy rippling skyward through the transparent dome. Ship 19 is out of range, her father announced, voice tight with relief. They're gone. 18-2, Malik murmured. His cyber-optic implant tracked the vessels' trajectories, each one marked by a pulsing dot on the holographic map. But these 17, he tapped the map, and a cluster of dots simmered in a narrow corridor above the Pacific. They're stuck at lunar escape velocity. Something's holding them. A cheer rose among the technicians. Humanity had never ventured so far into space. Seizing the moment, governments declared a reluctant truce and pooled every rocket, shuttle, and converted freighter for a joint salvage operation. Rhiannon was chosen to join the Red Sea Expeditionary, one of the 4 international crews, tasked with boarding the nearest vessel. Boarding Partithe Red Sea Shuttle Al Harith launched at dawn, its external tanks glowing with ray-engineered crystal energy. Rhiannon's heart thundered as the shuttle punched through the thin atmosphere, leaving aurora australis and battered storm clouds below. Inside the cramped cabin, she ran her fingers along the pack that carried her modified EMP rifle and portable translator, her mind replaying every lesson in alien linguistics she'd absorbed. "Brace for docking," called Commander Lee Wei, her voice steady despite the tremor in her eyes. The shuttle's mechanical arms reached out, grappling the alien hull with hydraulic precision. Rhiannon felt the metal groan, then a silent click as their airlock merged. They suited up in hermetic exoshells, bread box white against the blackness outside. Rhiannon's visor flickered, calibrating for the vessel's biosignature. Typical readings glowed green: power conduits, life support lines, machinery still humming, but no organic life forms. When the hatch finally cycled open, they stepped into a corridor coated in a fine ashen dust alien soot, possibly from their flight through Earth's atmosphere. The walls pulsed with veins of orange-red light, and every surface was etched with cryptic glyphs. Their translator scanners struggled. Most symbols flickered as unmatched. Split into 2 teams. Lee Wei ordered, Team A with me environmental scans, Team B with Dr. Saavedra and Specialist Cooper Tech Diagnostics. Rhiannon joined her father's team. Cooper, a weary Australian engineer with a patch over one eye, grinned. "Let's see what makes these things tick." 3. The silent halts the advance deeper. Passing through atriums where gravity seemed inconsistent, bodies of water hovered in crystalline spheres, droplets suspended like frozen stars. Rhiannon knelt, running her gloved hand along the spheres. Surface, the translator blinked blue. Ethereum collection. She recorded it, heart pounding. Ethereum, an unknown material that might power interstellar travel. Their scanners beeped. Down the hall, a sealed chamber's door glowed crimson. "This is off limits," her father warned. "But if there are logs," he tapped his wrist display, "we'll find out why they left these ships." Cooper pressed a panel. The door hissed and parted. Inside lay a single console, its interface arrayed like an ancient altar. Lee Wei's team converged. But no sooner had they crossed the threshold than the lights dimmed. The corridor behind them snapped tight, sealing them in darkness. "Power surge," Cooper muttered, but Rhiannon's visor lit up. No power fluctuations. Instead, a new symbol blinked on the scanner: distress protocol active, run the override. Her father snapped, "We need that data." Cooper worked. The interface and the console's crystalline panels shimmered. A muffled click. Then the door slid open. Li Wei's voice came through comms. "Commander to all teams, what's your status? We're fine. But they've initiated a distress lock," Rhiannon replied. "Logs are coming online." Brilliant glyphs streamed across the console. As the archive decrypted, Rhiannon read the first entry, Log 740 to Delta, systems failure. Core reactors offline. Crew, abandoning ship. Initiating atmospheric descent protocols. Another line, Log 743 Delta, coordinates set. Planetary insertion imminent. All personnel prepare for emergency jettison. Rhiannon's blood ran cold. They forced the crew to abandon Earth's atmosphere. She looked to her father, whose jaw had gone pale, or they ejected them. He whispered, 4. Descent and denial alarm klaxons echoed as the vessel's automated systems resumed orbital maneuvers. Outside the portholes, Earth's blue orb spun. Beneath them, peaceful and oblivious, the shuttle's AI flickered a warning. Inactive life signs detected. Li Wei regrouped the teams in the central hub, a coliseum-like chamber, where a holographic star map hovered. Cooper fed the data, his fingers flying over a holographic keyboard. "They tried to leave," he said flatly, "but the distress protocol forced the ship back into orbit. 2 ships vanished almost immediately, likely burned up on re-entry. The rest auto-returned and will atmospheric reinsert within the hour." Rhiannon pressed her palm to the transparent wall far below. Tokyo lay dark, but for sporadic fires still recovering from the pulse blackout. She gripped the crystal-powered rifle at her side. "We need to warn them, no time." Li Wei replied, "We're on board. We can't abandon ship." "Then we have to stop the protocol," Rhiannon said. "Find the core junction." Her father nodded. "It's this way." He led them through service ducts to the heart of the ship, a vast chamber where the power crystals like those they'd stolen were arrayed in a lattice. Around a glowing singularity, the crystal's pulsing light matched Paris' lat-long hum, a resonance that fed the pulse towers. Cooper examined the junction. "If we reverse the polarity here, we could disable the self-repair protocols and override the descent program. But its dangerous radiation levels are off the charts. We have to try," Rhiannon insisted. "If they crash here, there'll be no answers. We'll never know what happened to the crew." With trembling hands, Cooper rewired a control panel. Rhiannon and her father held back, covering him. Sparks flew as alien energy arced across the lattice. A low rumble shook the deck plates. "Done," Cooper shouted, hitting the master switch. The full outside. 17 ships simultaneously fired retro thrusters, brief flares of blue fire against the darkness. Then, as though gripped by a cosmic puppeteer, they pivoted and dived toward Earth. The Al-Hurth crew watched through the porthole as flaming silhouettes cascaded through the atmosphere. "They're coming down," Rhiannon whispered. "Brace yourselves," Li Wei ordered. A tremor shook the hull. Panels cracked. The lights flickered. Through the viewport, the first ship hit the Pacific, an explosion brighter than the Tokyo skyline. Wave after wave of meteors followed, streaking across the heavens like a macabre fireworks display. The Al-Hurth lurched violently. Alarms blared. Rhiannon clutched her helmet, eyes wide behind the visor. The shuttle's AI cried, "Hull breach imminent." They sealed the hatch and ejected the docking clamps. As the Al-Hurth veered away, they watched the other 16 crash in oceans and deserts around the globe. Flames illuminating continents Rhiannon had only ever seen on maps.vi. Empty silence back on Earth. Salvage operations mobilized at each crash site. But when teams boarded the wreckage of the first ship, they found only emptiness, corridors scorched, equipment overturned, cameras shattered, life pods missing. No bodies, no remains, only that same chilling silence. Rhiannon stood on the deck of a Mexican Navy frigate offshore of Acapulco, watching the inverted skyline. Smoke rose where the wreck lay submerged. She held her EMP rifle like a talisman, her knuckles white. They left everything behind. Her father said softly beside her. "They knew they wouldn't survive," Rhiannon replied, voice trembling. "But why come back at all?" Malik joined them via holocom. "We've recovered data shards. They're incomplete. But they point to an evacuation. Something forced them to return, and then kill themselves. Rhiannon swallowed hard, or they were killed. She glanced up at the unnatural hush of the sky. 17 flaming crosses had burned across the heavens, and what remained was a question that echoed in every shattered city. What drove an entire armada to abandon its command, return for a futile descent, and vanish without a trace in that haunting void between worlds? Rhiannon felt the weight of responsibility settle on her young shoulders. The long night had turned into a deeper mystery, and the next chapter would demand every ounce of courage humanity could muster. Descent into the Absrionon stood on the deck of the research vessel Leviathan, salt spray drifting through the night air as she peered toward the horizon. Miles below, the Mariana Trench yawned like an open wound in the Pacific, its depths untouched by sunlight for eons. Behind her stood an international crew of oceanographers, engineers, and converted ex-marine specialists, each drawn by the same fate, the 17 empty warships and their vanished crews. At dawn, the submersible Argonaut slipped into the water. Its reinforced titanium hull gleamed under spotlights as technicians ran final checks. Rhiannon's heart thundered. She reminded herself of the Nighthawk's first raid, the orbiting salvage, the fiery return of the invaders' fleet. All those unanswered questions had led her here, to the planet's deepest trench, where something ancient waited in silence. Ready, pilot, she called to Lieutenant Haruto Nimi, a veteran of countless undersea missions. His calm nod steadied her nerves. Inside the cramped cabin, the lights dimmed. Through the forward viewport, the surface rippled, then stilled as Argonaut punched downward. Rhiannon pressed her gloved palm to the glass. The ocean above blurred into a field of drifting particles. The descent began in earnest. Dust motes illuminated by the sub's headlights, then schools of bioluminescent organisms dancing in the gloom. The crystal cavern. After 2 hours of silent descent, the sonar pinged on an anomaly, a structure carved into the trench wall, stretching hundreds of meters, a cavern rimmed with jagged spires of crystalline material. Rhiannon's breath caught. The glowing ethereum spheres she'd seen aboard the alien ships must have originated here, harvested from these natural formations. Haruto guided Argonaut closer. Through the viewport, the cavern's towering crystals glowed in soft hues of violet and amber, their facets reflecting the sub's lights like 1,000 stars. Schools of blind, eyeless fish wove between the spires, indifferent to the vessel's presence. Rhiannon tapped the controls, sending a remote drone through the open hatch. It hovered, scanning the crystals with spectral sensors. They're pure, the drone's AI buzzed in her headset. Concentrated energy more potent than any power crystal we've encountered. She recorded the readings, her mind racing. If these crystals were the source of the invaders' warp and pulse technologies, they could rewrite the balance of power on Earth. But something more ominous loomed. Across the cavern floor lay the wreckage of an alien probe, shards of metal plating scattered around a shattered containment field. Rust-colored sludge seeped from its core. The slumbering colossus. Look at this, said Dr. Elena Marinova, the expedition's lead xenobiologist. Her voice trembled as she pointed to the probe's remains. The exterior plating is fused with organic tissue. It wasn't merely a machine, it was alive. Rhiannon stared. Embedded in the metal were sinewy membranes and bivascular conduits, their surfaces etched with the same glyphs she'd seen aboard the wrecked ships. A biomechanical scout, she whispered, sent to prepare the trench for something. Haruto adjusted the sub's position to illuminate a cavern wall beyond the probe. There, half buried in sediment, lay a colossal form, a skeletal frame nearly 100 meters long, its vertebrae curving like the ribcage of some titanic leviathan. A single crystalline eye socket glowed faintly, as though the creature still dreamed. That can't be natural, Elena gasped. It's engineered. Rhiannon pressed her forehead against the viewport. The creature's jaws were hinged in an eternal gape, rows of crystalline fangs glinting beneath a layer of ash. What purpose could such a being serve? Was it a guardian, a weapon, or something older, birthright of Earth itself? Awakening the deep as Argonaut hovered. The sub's sensors flickered. A low-frequency hum vibrated through the hull, resonating with the cavern's crystals. Rhiannon felt it in her bones, a pulse echoing across millennia. The crystalline eye above cracked and sent a beam of light that pierced the water column straight. At Argonaut, energy spike, Haruto shouted, reversing thrusters. The beam ricocheted off the sub's hull, splintering into shards of fractured light. The remote drone screamed in overload, its signal cutting out. "We triggered it," Rhiannon said, heart pounding. "We woke something up." The creature's eye glowed brighter, its body stirring in the sediment. Around it, the cavern walls trembled from the depths of the hull. A guttural vibration rolled outward, a sound neither mechanical nor organic, but both. Elena's voice was barely a whisper. "It's alive." "Flight through the abyss, we have to go," Haruto ordered. Sealing the outer bay and powering full thrusters, Argonaut surged backward as the cavern walls shuddered. The skeletal beast stirred, crystalline teeth grinding as sediment shifted. The hatch imploded open, and the sub shot upward through the trench's narrow passage. Rhiannon gripped her strap as the Absol pressure lessened, the beast's mournful roar echoing behind them. Through the viewport, she saw crystals grinding in the walls, fracturing under the shockwave of its awakening dot above. The research vessel loomed as they breached the surface. Rhiannon stumbled onto the deck, gasping for air as alarms sounded, and spotlights illuminated the dark sea. The crew surrounded her, eyes wide with horror and awe. A new resolution when Rhiannon collected herself. She stared back toward the rolling waves. Below lay the slumbering colossus, a being older than human memory, now awake and hungry. The implications pounded through her mind. The invaders hadn't come to conquer Earth. They'd come to enslave this guardian, to use its power to reshape worlds. But humanity had other plans. If the beast could be understood, tamed, or if necessary destroyed, then the Ethereum crystals themselves could be reclaimed. The trench had revealed a secret buried since Earth's formation, that beneath the surface, power outstripped nuclear bombs and alien warships. Rhiannon drew a steadying breath. Round her, the crew prepared to launch data probes, recovery dives, and diplomatic communiques to every surviving government. The world might never be the same. The long night had given way to a new dawn, one in which humanity must grapple with powers beyond imagining. She lifted her gaze to the sky, where the stars wheeled in silent vigil. Earth had been prey once, it would not be prey again. And from the depths, something stirred.